Well, this is different.
Well, that was loud and screamy. We just watched...
Screamy.
Scream of...
Shout
you! The animated Doctor Who adventure with... oh God, I've forgotten his name.
Really? You fancy the pants off of him? Have you forgotten his name?
E. Grant.
That's the one.
As the Doctor.
Yeah.
And he arrives...
Alright, let's slow down. What are people watching right now?
Our review of Scream the Shalka.
Who are you?
I'm not Chris.
Who am I?
You're Chris.
Yeah.
Fair. So I don't do the intro bit, don't judge me.
We have, as not Chris has just pointed out, we're talking to Scream with the Shalka. For those who don't know what this is the continuation of Doctor Who. In time for the 40th anniversary in 2003.
Yep.
Until early, not too long rather, before its release, the news is announced that actually the show's going back into production for BBC One relaunch in 2005, meaning that this, the web cartoon celebrating the 40th anniversary, isn't the official continuation anymore. But it was still made, released, is in 6 parts, has its own theme song, its own Doctor, its own TARDIS, its own companion, its own monsters. So it's worth talking about.
Yeah.
It's absolutely worth talking about.
I guess
but is it worth tracking down for those who don't know? So, who is Richard E. Grant's Doctor?
He is after Paul McGann, isn't he?
He's the ninth incarnation. So we've just skipped over Paul.
So he's the third ninth.
Well, the second as of this point, but yeah. Yeah, we've got we will meet another ninth Doctor soon, and then we'll meet the actual chronological ninth Doctor in the 50th anniversary, and I believe no. But yeah, so he's the Doctor. What it's never explicitly said, but what's happening to him in his life? Like what he seems to be very annoyed about the fact he's being sent places.
He's being sent places, but by the Time Lords, am I assuming?
We would assume. I don't think it's ever. It's
never
spelled out.
No, but he's being sent places, and he doesn't want to.
Because this is a pilot, effectively. Like if this had worked, they would have done more. And as a result, there are plenty of little threads in this that are clearly stuff they're going to explore later. Like what happened between the TV movie and now.
Yeah.
Who is sending him on missions? We assume the Time Lords. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's someone else who has a hold over the TARDIS and is sending him on errands. And he gets sent to a sleepy English village in Lancashire called Lannet, which is special because sod all's happening. People are staying in their homes. Other people have gone missing. There's a lava sculpture, ? Of a person nearby. And everyone just sort of goes home at night from their jobs and stays at home. Like they don't have the option. Like they can't necessarily make a different decision or choice. The town is under some form of bewitchment, whereby they're all aware that this is weird. It's been going on for 3 weeks. It's not quite right. And yet they're all doing it. And they believe it's because something is watching over them. Some have seen things in the shadows, including Alison, who's our sort of human surrogate character, human main character for this.
Female protagonist.
Played by the wonderful Sophie Okonedo. She's brilliant, and it's, you know, we'll talk about it later, but there's quite a few actors in this who we get to see in quote unquote proper Doctor Who later on, which is sort of cool. But she's the one who's sort of questioning it. She keeps seeing something in the shadows, like watching her when she walks from the pub she works back to her house with a boyfriend, Joe. And there's an old woman on the street, an elderly woman, who talks about how like the ground opened up and swallowed her house and stuff. Her cats. So it's pretty weird. It's a weird situation, and the Doctor immediately starts to sniff it out.
Yeah.
long and the short, the town and several cities around the world, it seems, in 28 plus other places, has been infiltrated underneath by the Shalka, a race of aliens that is essentially are conquerors. But they don't conquer to rule over anywhere. They're just looking for more worlds to call their own. They just want to have more homes. Not because they're desperately in need of it, but because it's what they do.
Yeah.
It's described later that they wait for a planet. They wait for a planet to sort of be at a weird little hiccup culturally in its development. So here it's sort of like, we're at the point where greenhouse gases are really starting to affect things. And
yeah, it's definitely one of those stories where it's like, oh, here's an actual real life issue.
Yeah,
This one's global warming.
Don't pollute and don't not listen to people who are warning you about global warming, you assholes, because... Well, for real, genuine reasons, don't do that. But in the purpose of this story, because an evil alien race that will use your barren land as an Airbnb are going to come down and screw with you.
When did this come out again?
2003.
It's very depressing that 17 years later, we're still... global warming is still a giant... horrible issue
that people aren't taking seriously.
Yeah,
that's the main
17
worry.
years later.
18 as of the time this goes out on YouTube.
Oh my
so
God, really?
Hey, maybe next year this will all have worked out. Who knows?
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Beyond the new. The last two times they saw us was on your birthday and my birthday. So we're into February now.
Oh, happy birthday!
Happy birthday for last month,
Thank
even though it's
you.
October while we're recording this.
Oh, we're 30 now.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
And still we haven't fixed global warming.
And we've not left the house because of COVID.
Covid.
I bet by this time we'll still all be wearing masks and stuff.
I'm fine with that. I bet by this time we still haven't all left the house, but not because the Shalka have been making it so, because the Shalka control things with their voice. They're these tiny little parasitic worm creatures that develop sort of shells, other bodies around themselves, kind of like a Dalek in a way, but the shells sort of look like these. They're sort of like the, what's it called? The dinosaur with the frills in Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah, that's what made me think of as well.
Yeah, they sort of look like that, but like a big crusty worm version.
Yeah.
Of that dino with a frill and a big, snaky face in the middle.
The one that spits.
Yeah, that's the one. And,
I don't know what it's called.
Whereas the sort of the head of them, the queen, the empress of the Shalka, what have you, she takes on a more mutated sort of semi-humanoid form. And apparently she does that because she gets into the minds of and the study of the species that they're about to hijack. Because the Shalka's superpower, they're god makers. They are the creatures that could forge the universe however they wanted due to the power they have, which is their voice.
Yeah.
Like the sonics of their throat can change atoms and rearrange like the earth. Like they carved out the caves underneath what's the town called again? Underneath Lanet, like within a couple days. And it's a giant lair full of their technology and a wormhole that they used to travel between planets. Like they carved it out with just screams.
What builders did they get? Because I mean, they'll be making some bumps.
New throat builders. We build stuff with our throats, supporters. They're powerful and they're scary and they're here, as we learn by the end of the story, simply
the Addams family
to physically puppeteer groups of humans in key spots around the Earth, so that they can then signal boost their own scream through those humans, and that scream will weaken the atmosphere, allowing weather basically to kill everyone off. And then when that's done, they'll hollow out the rest of the Earth, have another base camp, and then they'll leave some Shalka there, and then they'll wormhole shunt their way to another planet on the verge of collapse and keep going. They're not looking to conquer or rule, they're just looking to replace planets that are on the brink of destruction and, like I said, turn it into
give it a little refresh.
Yeah, turn it into a timeshare, basically, for all the Shalka. As they say toward the end, the Doctor's like, you're not evil, you're death incarnate. Like, that's all you are.
Mm.
You exist to kill and replace people and just leave husks. Like 80%, she says, of the planets in the universe belong to the Shalka. The ones that are dead planets, as everyone perceives them.
Yeah.
The Shalka are secretly living on those planets. or planets that are about to fall in the coming years to the Shalka, and they've already begun their operations. This is an interesting story. Like, the Doctor brings the military into it to help out, and at first, just because he wants to get his TARDIS back after it collapses through the Earth, he doesn't give a crap about everything. He's like, right, solve the problem, let me go, because he's defying whoever's sent him here to deal with it. And Alison is like the only sort of sharp cookie willing to do stuff. Everyone else, including her boyfriend, is like reluctant or too afraid to try anything.
Let's just live with it.
Yeah, classic Doctor Who shenanigans sort of ensue, and they clearly work well together, and the story ends with the defeat of the Shalka via the Doctor sort of incorporating their own biology into his own body, because this Doctor's got his own sort of unique little superpowers like other incarnations do, and this one is sort of...
He can absorb, like, knowledge and...
Yeah, and tap himself into basically like the Shalka's network, and he uses a practiced bit of singing... a bit of singing skills, the wrong word, because it's sort of, they make a point out of like he sounds kind of flat, but he's hitting the note well enough that he's syncing up with the thing in his system. They wipe out the Shalka, the atmosphere is going to be fine, but it can't be reset, even though Alison's like, you should let me reset it. He's like, yeah, it's not going to happen. Like, humanity's
you need to clean up your own mess.
Yeah, there's the moral. And then at the end, Alison and the Doctor's travelling companion / pet sort of convinces Alison to stay, and the fact that she's not waiting, despite time travel, for her boyfriend at her mum's house when he calls there, expecting her to already be there because time travel, kind of suggests that she's like, yeah, this is the end of this relationship. Bye. I'm going to bugger off now. And that's the story. It's completely animated because that was how they made it. It was a web cartoon. There was going to be no return of the show. This was it. And the web team at BBC websites and the Doctor Who website were like, let's continue the show as a web cartoon. It'll be Flash. It will be released in 6 15-minute installments. And that comes with the limitations of a Flash cartoon.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, we remember watching Flash cartoons in the early days of the internet, like, you know, the kids' websites and comedy websites with Flash cartoons on, Flash cartoons you could interact with. Like, we can remember when that stuff was like, oh my god, like, they made this and you can play with it.
Ultimate Joe?
Joe cartoon. That was some of the cruder stuff, but like, it was like, oh wow, it's a cartoon that you can click and interact with, and you know, like, there was definitely skill in this, and this was made by, sort of in the dying days of, really, Cosgrove Hall. Like, legendary Manchester animation studio Cosgrove Hall are involved in this. But of course, like, the work they mostly were known for was like their hand-drawn animations, things like, you know, Duckula and Danger Mouse and like all that kind of work. Like, that was that, and stop motion stuff. Like, that was their bread and butter, and they're incredible at it. And to this day, like, the talents of Cosgrove in the modern era do exist and work on stuff. There's like a big stop-motion animation scene in Altrincham, which like contains a lot of people from that era and stuff. Like Strange Hill High, a lot of people worked on Strange Hill High, for example, like came from Cosgrove or from like studying at Cosgrove and things like that. So like that legacy will live on. But Flash animation, regardless of your pedigree, and in 2003, and with the limitations of it, was never going to age well.
No.
Yet we remember it from that time. So we kind of had that thing of, well, we know this is going to be a bit weird to get used to, but we sort of remember these kinds of animations, let's see how we go. Like, the way that between seeds, it just sort of... The way between scenes, it just sort of fades out and then fades back up. Like, do you remember cartoon clips doing that back in the day? Because it was all about, like, processing power and all this, that, and the other. Because you couldn't pause a Flash either, could you? You couldn't pause a Flash cartoon. Like, you started it, it played, and then it ended.
Yeah. Jesus, man.
That being said, us having the filter of knowing what to expect, I'd seen this a couple of times before. Lucy's seen this for the first time. It's not great as a visual story.
No.
The designs are great. The designs are really good. But they don't do anything exciting.
No.
you have to really play around with flash animation to make it look in this style, to make it look interesting.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really come across in this. You were really hung up by the animation, weren't you?
I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't like it.
The whole thing?
I didn't like it. I thought it was boring.
The story?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I thought the characters were boring. I thought the lack of music, like you were just saying before we said recording, there's no music.
Aside from a banging techno theme song.
Yeah. And I really think the animation's ugly. I think it's really ugly.
Do you remember...
there's a film called Waltz with Bashir.
Mm.
It's documenting like war atrocities in the Middle East. And the segments are animated. It follows a character called Bashir. And the background characters, you know, like when the scream is happening.
Yeah.
And there's people from all different countries. It looked like that animation that's in Waltz with Bashir.
Especially with the use of like shadow and that
exactly, yeah, and the thick lining,
yeah.
thick lines around, you know, people's
faces, illustrate,
like,
give them definition.
Yeah, exactly. And it just made me think, I'd rather be watching Waltz with Bashir.
Despite the harrowing subject matter.
And even though I was watching it, and my eyes were watching it, I was thinking, oh my god, I wonder where I can get hold of that now. Do you reckon that's on DVD? It might be on a streaming service. So I was, unfortunately, I was completely checked out. I think that the Shalka looked good.
Especially the lead one, she looks amazing.
Yeah.
She's got a very Jafar-like neckline.
Yeah.
Sort of, like, the design around her head, like, slopes down her
neck.
Yeah.
That was pretty much all I liked of it.
I think the designs of everyone, like, everyone's design is good. I'm very of the time. Like, Alison is dressed very much like somebody in casual trackies
2000s,
in that crossover
Spice
from the late
Girl
90s into the early 2000s. Yeah. Like, the designs are great. Like, the gentleman living in the TARDIS, like, looks spot on. Like, the Doctor's design, I really like his design. This weird sort of vampiric Edwardian look, which we have a theory, because Little Vampire was like, what, 2 years prior to this? 2001, 2000, around about that time?
Yeah.
Richard E. Grant, of course. Is he Dracula? Or is
no,
he...
he's not Dracula.
But it's that kind of...
Vampire.
It's that kind of thing, isn't it?
He's the dad vampire, of course.
Yeah. Or in your case, the daddy vampire. But
Stop!
The point is...
Ew!
You fancy him in that movie?
Yeah, I know.
Well, there you go.
Don't say daddy.
All right.
Gross.
Richard E. Grrr.
Don't stop that. Don't stop.
So, like, in that it's the big collars, it's the capes, it's those very defined colours, it's dark,
it's the cheekbones,
blacks and reds, and in this, like, they emphasise the cheekbones. The sideburns of the Doctor sort of like are into his cheekbones in this, and he's got the swept back
Richard
hair.
E. Grant has that face though, doesn't he? I mean, it looks like Richard E. Grant. It's obviously Richard E. Grant, and Alison is obviously
Sophie Okonedo.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's just kind of like...
And that's where the coolness ends. I just thought...
Do you like his costume? The sort of like the dark suit under the big green sort of cloak?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't amazing. You know, it's...
Do you know who he reminds me of, actually?
Go on.
I don't know if you've ever seen him in the animated series, but Batman the Animated Series, have you seen their version of Ra's al Ghul?
Yes.
It's just hit me now. Like,
oh my god, from here it looks like
yeah, and especially like the 70s Denny O'Neil. Oh my god, who's the artist who worked with Denny O'Neil? Neil Adams. Neil Adams, like the green cloak and the suit underneath. He just needs the little pointy beard on his chin.
Oh my god, that's deadly.
I mean, there's that David Warner who voiced him in that. Another alternate Doctor, but from the audios. But and another actor who pops up in the modern series in the show.
Also something that was quite annoying, is probably just me, but the sound effects, you know, of people walking and things like that.
Very pronounced.
Very loud.
Yeah.
It's like, oh god, that's so annoying.
But were they standing out more because there was no score? I said
definitely.
like 2 episodes in, I said, do you know what this is? or what it feels like it should be. It feels like it should have been an audio production.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it feels like it's been produced like an audio production, and then they've gone, oh, slap a cartoon on it. No, that's it. They weren't that flippant. A lot of time, care, and attention and love was poured into this. It's Paul Cornell's first ever script for a Doctor Who thing in Vision as well, and I think the script for this is really good. Like, I think the story itself, which is why I was surprised. I was like, oh, because I think the story itself is really good, and it evolves at the right. It evolves. It evolves at the right pace. Like, you learn stuff incrementally, and then in the last 3 episodes, it's like, oh, and then you know everything sinks in. But by the end, there's still some mystery. There's still some elements of right. So who's he on jobs for? Why is that in the TARDIS? Like, what is going on? I think the script's great. I think there's some really lovely lines. There's some really lovely little moments in it as well, which definitely got us both. There's these little throwaway, like the jokey moments, the bits of comic relief. Everything that was meant to be funny did hit. We both each time was like, like it got us. It's like, yes,
yeah, but
there's some good stuff in there.
It wasn't memorable because I can't remember any of them.
I don't know, that line from his nibs. In the fifth one. It's quite funny where he's going into his old thing and then just like, which is quite good.
Oh yeah,
let's talk about the TARDIS. So the TARDIS on the outside, it looks nice. They obviously had a model rendered of it spinning that they were very proud of, because that's the majority of the title sequence.
It does look like the TARDIS.
Yeah.
So.
And there's no note on the door, because when the Doctor wills it into... That was quite a cool scene, where he's falling through essentially a black hole.
Black hole, yeah.
And because he has a connection to the TARDIS, he wills it into existence.
Yeah.
So he can arrive in it and then pilot it out of the black hole. But obviously it's trying to get all the details right, and he says, forget about the door sign! Because he's just telling it to, hurry up, I just want to get in. And then the rest of the episode is spent with there being just a black square where the note would normally be on the door. And I don't remember seeing it in the opening episode, and I think it was just a case of, it's slightly less troublesome to animate if we get rid of the white bit with writing on it. So I have a feeling, because the police public call box is still on top, but pull to open's all gone and everything.
Yeah.
That was weird. The interior of the TARDIS, bloody lovely.
It's very different.
Big cavernous. Do you know what it looks like? Did you ever see the Buffy the Animated Series designs for the library?
Min,
you should probably describe what's happening.
Sorry, Min keeps farting.
Our dog
horrible.
keeps letting out bottom gaseousness.
Sorry, it really stinks.
Did you ever see the design for the library at Sunnydale High for Buffy the Animated Series?
No.
The pilot. It's a tall, 3-4 story room with spiral staircase going around the outside of it, leading to the different floors.
In a high school.
Yeah, well, I think it's because A, animation, you could do much more with it, and B, when the Hellmouth eventually opened, you could do something slightly more big and dramatic with it, rather than some fleshy Audrey 2s bursting out the floor and screaming a lot.
Well, that's why the Trafford Centre's built on top of the Hellmouth, isn't it?
Yeah, so it can burst through one of the fountains.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
One of those statues where a lady's got a boob out.
Yeah. Just one boob.
Just one boob.
Just one boob.
No arms, one boob out.
No arms, one boob. No arms, one boob. That's Lucy's review.
You don't see
you
don't see male statues in there like the Romans with one ball out, do you?
Well, to be fair, it's not like you can separate them. Never mind. The point is, Jesus Christ, I like the interior of the TARDIS. I think it's interesting. I like how in the last episode it's confirmed that to get to the different sections, there's not pathways. You go through the door you come in through, and it's a lift. He reappears, having looked for the umbrella stand, and it goes ding, and the doors slide open. And you're like, wait, what? That's different. That is pretty cool that they're going, let's play around with what the TARDIS could be. Yeah, the Zeppelin hanger. We're playing around with how the TARDIS can look. I think that's very cool.
What's up the stairs now?
Whoa.
Maybe it's all of the levels, but, in case the lift breaks.
But it's what's in the console room that's most interesting. You had no idea about this before we played it, did you? I hadn't told you about this or whatever. So, who or what is in the console room?
It seems to be an android with the consciousness
and the outward appearance
of the Master.
Yeah, so
Hence the little setup over there.
yeah, sort of like a pale Delgado with greying temples kind of design.
Roger Delgado.
Lovely, Roger. The Master is here. It's implied he can be turned off, but he apparently does he has programming that makes him do certain things and have restrictions, but he does act of his own accord. Like we find out that we see him trying to make a deal with the Shalka whilst the Doctor is away, in the way the Master classically would do, especially Delgado. In the last one, he tries to what's her name? Alison. He tries to hypnotise Alison before he's interrupted. Yeah. It's like, would that even work? Would he have a better success rate than the actual Master has ever had?
Ooh, sick burn.
He very openly insults the Doctor and verbally spars with him, but he concedes to everything he says because at the end of the day, he is canine, he is chameleon, he's an android in the TARDIS. He can't leave the TARDIS, we learn. We learn that if he's impatient, he can get it started slightly early, because at the end it starts making the noise and he's like, the Master wants to go.
It's like a kid with a car horn.
We learn that he accepted this fate and now regrets it because the Doctor gave him a chance when it was too late. So the implication here is this is an android with pre-programmed settings and access to the TARDIS, but it has to do what the Doctor's programmed it to do, and yet occasionally it tries to act out of its programming because it's possibly inhabited by the consciousness of the Master.
That's how I took it.
And we find out that this only happened after the Doctor lost someone, because a through line in this is he's avoiding people, and specifically friends, or any situations that could result in him gaining friends the way he has for all of his previous lives. So it's implying that something horrible happened, and they keep talking about to her. So the implication is that maybe a companion or a friend or a lover died, and it was on his watch, and he's turned away from ever accepting someone else in the TARDIS again. Like, he's just rejecting the idea of it.
That's sad.
So
I want to know that story.
Well, exactly. Like, had this carried on, we could have learned stuff like that, because this does set up some interesting things. Like, so what was the situation where he and the Master were facing, like a mortal peril that would have resulted in the Doctor's death, and the Master was given a second chance at life by the Doctor as a thank you for helping him? But why would the Master then be reluctant? How is he in an android? Do the Time Lords know about it? Is it the Time Lords sending them on missions? Who died? What led to their death led to the Doctor going, I'm going to save the Master? Like, what? Do you know what I mean? It's like, why? What is happening? There's some great ideas here, and I think there was, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, I think there was a book after this in the BBC Books range set in this continuity. Like, they did like one more story.
Yeah. I'm
pretty sure that happened. I know this Doctor and Rowan Atkinson's are alluded to in one of the stories, in one of the books, as being...
say Emma?
Emma's mentioned in that book, which is a confirmation that Doctor that they're referring to is the Rowan Atkinson one.
Yeah. That's very strange.
So, like, Richard E. Grant's Doctor is now relegated to the same realms as the parody Doctor, as potential futures for the 8th Doctor. So, in your headcanon, boys and girls, one universe, this story happened and is ongoing. And we see Alison and the Doctor and Robot Master's adventures in time and space. I'm ultimately glad that never happened, because it would really have confused and muddied things going forward.
Yeah.
And yet, I would love to have another option to see stories set in this version of the continuity. Do you know what I mean? Like, the reason this didn't carry on isn't because it was bad. It's because the Doctor was already coming back onto television at that point, and production had begun on the show. So this was discounted. But there obviously was not enough demand to continue it, and in any way, beyond possibly that book. And yet, if you told me, oh, they're going to do like another one straight to DVD, like set in this continuity, I'd be like, sure. I'd watch that because I'd want to know more about this version of the story because of the things that are unanswered here.
Yeah.
My request would be,
the animation
could you change the animation or
put music in it?
Yes, score it, hand draw it, freaking hand draw it. That'd look gorgeous. You're not in a rush to ever revisit this, are you?
No.
No.
I'm not ashamed to say it. I didn't enjoy it, I'm afraid.
Is this your least favourite interpretation outside of the canon alongside, say, like, the Cushing movies?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really? Interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the cast before you wrap up, though, because there's a few who, of course, continue on. Can you name the... I think... I just want to double check. Double check. Yes. Yes. Yeah, okay. Can you name the 4 cast members in this that go on to play a part in the modern series and who it is they play?
Can I say their characters' names?
Yeah, sure. No, I'll confirm him. Confoyo him.
Alison?
Yep, played by Sophie Okonedo. Yes.
David Tennant?
Why don't I know? Who does she play? Who does she play?
She plays, I can't remember.
Matt Smith's era. She has one episode that's about her character, and then she cameos in the end of that season with a bunch of other characters that cameo at the end of that series in a montage.
Is she a brigadier?
No. If I show you,
I can't remember.
if I show you a picture of her,
She's a scientist. Yeah, I know who she is.
Okay, she's Liz 10. She's Queen Elizabeth X in The Beast Below, Starship UK, The Space Whale.
Oh God, yeah, she is. Isn't
Porcelain
she?
mask, twin handguns.
Yeah.
I'm the bloody Queen, mate.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
You said David Tennant. David Tennant wasn't in this. He wasn't credited. I mean, he literally wasn't credited in this, but he
was in it.
He is in it. It's a little cameo.
One of the guards for the...
Yeah, the caretaker at the warehouse, and he gets throttled to death by the pub landlord.
Thanks, me.
Stop
licking that
who does he play in Modern Doctor Who?
He plays a modern Doctor Who.
He's the very model of a modern Doctor Who. Who else? There's 2 others. What characters do they play in this?
The Master.
The Master. Who played the Master in this? Or the Master's android?
Oh God,
Derek Jacobi.
Derek Jacobi.
Who did he play in the modern series?
The Master.
Yeah. Spoopy.
And there's one more.
There is one more. There's a big one that's really bloody obvious.
Oh, Richard E. Grant.
Yes.
He plays the Great Intelligence.
He plays the Great Intelligence and the gentleman it possesses and everything. Yeah, in Matt Smith's era, and also, of course, was in Curse of Fatal Death last time, playing the 10th incarnation of that Doctor. Lick the Mirror handsome. Was this story Lick the DVD good for you, gentle viewer? Because I don't mind it. I think it's a fun, weird little sidestep. Not Chris, not fond. But what about you guys?
I knew it was coming.
I hope Demi's not mad. She loves this story. So
sorry, Demi.
What do you think of Scream of the Shalka? Let us know down below. And also down below, please let us know which story coming up next you're most excited to hear our thoughts on. Because next time, in Doctor Who Review, my boy arrives.
Hey! Ow.
Contemporary Earth is once again our setting. We're going to see all sorts of things. Ghosts from the past. Aliens from the future. The day the Earth died in a ball of flame. Next time a Doctor Who review, it's the trip of a lifetime, and I can't freaking wait because it's my favourite series, right? Bye, everybody! Bye!